It's a pretty cool feeling. Well, it's rolling whenever you're ready.
It's rolling?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this seems like a very important idea or something to consider when you're comparing two different sites. So if we're looking at a schoolyard on the east side of town versus a schoolyard on the west side of town, trying to figure out which one is harboring more diversity, we have to consider that whichever school sampled more individuals, spent more time in their schoolyard, is going to experience an increase in their diversity because of the sampling effect.
You got it.
But with this program, we'll be able to control for that and actually make these comparisons?
Absolutely. That's what it's designed to do, and it does it beautifully. We just finished a study. No, that's not right. We just finished a stage of a study which we're reporting on. That it's primarily conducted by Art Shapiro of the University of California at Davis on the butterflies in a little protected area not too far from Davis called Willow Slough. And he has been censusing there for close to 30 years, every July 4th, in a constant way, so that there's no problem with bias of observer. For the first 15 or 20 years, he was just collecting data. He was having a good time. He didn't know what he was going to do with it. And he came to me and he said, "Mike, what do I do with it?" And I said, "Well, let's see what Fisher's Alpha has to say about what's going on." And Fisher's Alpha said, "This place is losing butterfly species. This place is in serious trouble." And it didn't show up in the raw counts of species. You know, if you looked at the number of species he was getting, there was a jumping around, but no trend. And the jumping around was present because he was getting a different number of butterflies. Some rich years were full of butterflies, and some poor years he only got a few. And that was causing the jumping around. We put alpha on the same set of data, and down they go. And I showed it to him, and he said, "I don't believe it. I don't believe it." I said, "Okay, well, I'm not going to be able to stop you from keeping on counting butterflies, so do it every year. Send me your data, and I'll add it." Well, you know, we're into our 27th year right now, and that line keeps going down and down and down. And it took 23 years for him to see the trend in the raw data. But Fisher's Alpha saw it within 13 years.
Seems like that's something that we're going to have to consider in the Tucson bird count data.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, the Heinz Center in Washington is trying to help develop monitoring numbers, a few monitoring numbers for the environmental status of the nation. And they will be using it too. They will be using things that depend on Fisher's Alpha and species area curves to try to make things comparable from region to region in the country. And so we can have one diversity monitoring index that will help us decide how good a job we're doing.
So the species area relationship, if you just plot the raw data, on the x-axis you have the area.
Right.
And on the y-axis you have the number of species.
Absolutely.
When you plot that data, generally you just get a curve.
Yep.
And
except from the point of view of the viewer, the curve's going to look like that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, so ecologists have this thing about making this curve straight. They want to make it straight. And they want to do that, they use logarithms. And I don't know, why do they want to make it straight, and how do they use logarithms to straighten the species area curve?
They want to make it straight for the very simple reason that it's easier to draw a straight line than it is to draw a curved line. It's really that simple. Now, what we've done in the past is we've learned that there are some special properties to how steeply those things rise, those straight lines rise. And they help us talk about biodiversity, and they help us talk about the richness of habitats. And so we want to get those straight lines so that we can establish the slope of the straight line.
That gives us some...
And that gives us comparative statistics, and it helps to tell us what kind of process is going on. For example, if the straight line is a very shallow slope, that strongly suggests that all you're doing is seeing a sampling effect. If the straight line is a very steep slope, a slope close to 1, in logarithmic space, of course, this is all now straight lines in log space. If it's close to 1, that tells you are looking at real sustainability dynamics. You're looking at speciation and extinction. You're looking at things that matter and they count. They're for real. It's important to be able to say those things and to recognize those things. And without straightening the data, we couldn't have done it. We simply couldn't have done it. You shouldn't be afraid of logs. I mean, why? a lot of people look in their math books and they say, "Oh my goodness, that's terrible. What does that mean?" Well, a logarithm is a very nicely behaved number. And one of the nice things about it is that the bigger the number that you're working with, the bigger its logarithm. So if you get 2 numbers to compare, and one has a bigger logarithm than the other one, then it's a bigger number, period. And you can organize them just the same way you can organize regular numbers. The only special, but they have these special properties that enable us to straighten things out and make them easier to analyze. So don't be afraid of logs.
Okay, sounds good.
And one of our jobs will be to coordinate with K through 12 teachers and help make their lives easier and help them open the doors for kids. We can, at the first at least, we can have them just free to visit
and understand that it's
not in the thousands, but,
No,
but a class or
that's
two
great
at a
to hear,
time.
because the Gear Up students are supposed to go to the UA, and Katrina
This
would
is
obviously
the
go on.
UA.
Yeah, this is the
we
UA.
are sitting on University of Arizona
It's an outdoor
property.
lab.
You bet. And so that's one thing we can do. But as the Alliance's projects around the city and around the eastern part of Pima County expand, there will be plenty of places. There will be neighborhoods that are right next to a school that they can go and visit. And we can send our people, we don't have any now, but we will,
Right.
Including citizen scientists, volunteers, to meet the students and to guide them through the neighborhoods at the right time, to show them what's going on and what it's done.
Yeah, no.
We're always going to face the problem that we can't schedule nature. We have to work with nature's schedule. That means that if something's active at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's not going to be accessible for K through 12. And if something is active in the springtime, then taking class to see it in November is not going to help very much. But we'll know those kinds of things. We already know a lot about that.
And the thing that I'm trying to do with the kids is actually target kids instead of targeting schools and teachers, so that hopefully they can get excited and do the, because I think kids they do a lot more on their own.
It's like pharmaceutical commercials, Buy this drug. Well, we can't really tell you to buy this drug. Talk to your doctor about this drug.
But I think kids do a lot more. I'm not saying they do any drugs, but kids do a lot more on their own than they do in school. And that's where I'm trying to merge it with the technology stuff. That they're out with their cell phones and taking pictures, and they have a lot more time on their hands than they, in their captured space in school. So I think having the neighborhood opportunities on all that kind of stuff will be really good.
Yeah, that'll be very useful, very useful. And